give you a little bit of my understanding of Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges, he has a prediction that the U.S. empire is in decline. This is like late-stage capitalism. The empire is in decline, and he's been in all these different countries where he sees the conditions. He sees how there's a calm before the storm or whatever. He sees all the preconditions, and then all of a sudden everything collapses, and then there's kind of, pandemonium. There's riots, and there's just a bunch of insanity and craziness. So Chris Hedges, his entire perspective, he's a Chicken Little. He's a Chicken Little who's sitting there saying that, everything's burning, everything's crumbling. He's sitting there fiddling while, Rome is burning. He's a Nero. He's a Nero. And we need a Chris Hedges. We need a Chris Hedges. We need a Mr. The empire is burning. America is crumbling. We're all going to die, unless we do something about it. When the shit hits the fan, we're all going to be picking up Chris Hedges books like crazy. But if it ever happens, because it could also never happen. So that's Chris Hedges. For Chris Hedges, there could be a big nuclear fallout. There could be this major apocalypse that's coming. This is the end times. This is the gloom and doom end times. He's kind of like the evangelical for leftist radicals. He's the evangelical that's reading Revelations. He's talking about the end times. He's talking about fire and brimstone, gloom and doom. This is the end of America. This is the end of America. Revelations, the whore of Babylon. The best of times? No, not the best of times. This is the worst of times. So, na. Goodbye, U.S. empire. So that's Chris Hedges' entire perspective could be, just chorus. Na. Hey. Goodbye, U.S. empire. So they asked him about forced to vote. Now, it seems ironic, seems hypocritical that Mr. Oh shit, America is an airplane about to crash. Oh shit, America is an airplane who's being, hijacked or whatever, and it's about to crash, and should we vote and kick Pelosi out and try to do something? No, it's an airplane about to crash, the apocalypse is about to happen, but don't you dare push Nancy Pelosi out as speaker.
The true liberal element, not the Tony Blair, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama faux liberalism. I mean, remember Margaret Thatcher said her greatest creation was Tony Blair, and Richard Nixon's greatest creation was Bill Clinton. Or Barack Obama, or Joe Biden. Although Biden was picked by Obama to be vice president because in all but name he was a Republican. His voting record was completely Republican. So. The fact is, unless that we build movements that can counter the power of the water carriers for Wall Street and big business.
So I'm going to kind of summarize essentially what he says. So Chris Hedges, he's going to say that force the vote, he's against it because it's a political suicide. That's the second reason. The first reason he says is that the squad has no power. The squad doesn't have power. He's also going to criticize how politics is a game of fear. But then, how come we're not going to do force the vote, huh? So don't push Nancy Pelosi out as speaker. Chris Hedges defending Nancy Pelosi. What the fuck, Chris Hedges? Everything's burning, right? Rome is burning. It's all collapsing. We're all going to die. But should we not re-elect Pelosi as speaker? No, we can't do that. What, try to get somebody else as speaker of the House of Congress as, the world burns? That is... If the world is burning, it's probably because Pelosi is the speaker. So what's the politics? Political suicide? It's not political suicide to go up against Pelosi. It's not political suicide. You might not be able to get all your committee chairs and assignments and shit, but Pelosi has approval rating of 20%. It's not political suicide. If anything, if you're a true blue progressive, you cannot support Pelosi. If you're a true blue progressive, there's no way that you could even stomach, you can't even hold your nose and vote for Pelosi. Jesus Christ. So the very first reason that Chris Hedges uses is incorrect. The squad has no power. They're legislators. They're congresswomen. They can vote on they can introduce legislation. They can vote on legislation. They can get people to get a critical majority, get a critical mass to get their legislations passed. So this is, what are you talking about? This is the definition of power. The people that's a part of the government is the one that have power. If the judicial and the legislative and the executive branch don't have power, who the fuck has the power? So Chris Hedges saying that the squad has no power. Wrong. Chris Hedges is wrong. The squad definitely has power. That's the whole fucking point of them being part of one of the three branches of government, one of the three co-equal branches of government. And then number two, he says that it's political suicide. And I already mentioned political suicide. You had a number of, blue dog Democrats that didn't vote the way Pelosi wanted. Do we hear about them and how terrible? If anything, Joe Manchin is like Mr. fucking deal breaker, Mr. neoliberal, Mr. conservative Democrat, right? So political fucking suicide. It's not political suicide to fight for what you believe in. It's not political. It's actually political suicide to not fight at all. That's political suicide. You're not even going to fight for it. You're not going to fight at all. You're just going to put your hands down and just let them take, run roughshod, take whatever the hell they want to take away from you. Insane. Chris Hedges, this is fucking insane. And so we're a B-52 bomber. Our wings have been shot, right? We're a B-52 bomber. Our wings have been shot, and we're falling, and we're going down. And should we use the power that we have to get some leverage in order to get a brand new Speaker of the House, one that's more progressive, one that can actually bring about a progressive agenda for America, one that will actually bring about a progressive agenda in America which is the only fucking thing that's going to save America? Jesus Christ. We're already 1,000 steps back? We're already a negative 1,000? Joe Biden is paving the way. He's paving, the yellow brick road. He's paving the nice golden and silver brick road for President Marjorie Taylor Greene. Get ready, America, because Joe Biden, he's going to fail. He ain't going to change America. America will not be better in 3 years. And Marjorie Taylor Greene. People are going to reach out to Marjorie Taylor Greene because who the fuck knows why they would reach out to her. But we're a B-52 bomber. Our wing has been shot down. The empire is going down. 750 military bases in 150 countries. No, it's all crumbling. But don't push Nancy Pelosi out as speaker. We're all going to die. It's all burning. We're all going to die. But hey, we got to protect Nancy Pelosi. She's got to be the Speaker of the Congress forever and ever and ever. What the fuck is the matter with you motherfuckers? What the fuck, Chris Hedges? This is embarrassing. I guess I did just assume Chris Hedges. He's part of Russia Today. He's friends with all these fucking people. How can he sit there and say he's against forced vote? Nobody talked to him. Nobody asked him any questions. That's what it is. He, got left out of the damn conversation. So when you have Breonna Joy Gray saying that people are making fun of her, saying she's just a silly old goat because, she's for a progressive agenda. She's not for incrementalism. She wants a bold, dramatic, progressive agenda. She's just a silly old goat, right? Because Joe is an incrementalist. He's a Republican. What, you're going to put pressure to try to kick Pelosi out to get a progressive agenda to try to save America? No. You can't do that. Ultimately, Chris Hedges is going to say that the solution is not, these parliamentary tactics in Congress, but he says that we need to, mobilize and organize, but the center of our attack are the centers of power, such as the example he gives is Walmart. Walmart destroys communities. It's, centralized power. It's got a lot of wealth. Minimum wage sets the standard for the rest of the community. So he says when we're ready to attack Walmart, when we have the apparatus and the organization and the machine to, say, okay, we need to end what the fuck Walmart has been doing, then he'll listen to whatever force the vote or whatever. But he says the first thing that we got to do is, organize and go after the centers of power, which is, something to think about. It's something to think about.
The defense industry, like Pelosi or Schumer, then those people, however well-meaning AOC may be or anyone else, and I don't know her, I never met her, she may be, then we can't go anywhere. So that's the point. And politics is a game of fear, and we've lost the ability to make them afraid. And that's what we have to recover, which is why general strikes, all this kind of stuff, that's where all of our energy has to go. We have to unionize places like Walmart, and when you unionize places in Walmart, and there's a Walmart that destroyed the town, much of my family, Norway, Maine, the whole Main Street is now boarded up because everybody goes to Walmart, which pays minimum wage. People are still below the poverty line because they only work 28 hours.
So Walmart is terrible, so we need to attack the center of power that is Walmart. Now, he's going to give some other examples. He's going to point out that George McGovern, he came back and he attacked the dairy industry or something. The farmers got pissed off and that sunk him. He's going to point out that Ralph Nader, he got OSHA and the Freedom of Information Act and a whole bunch of shit Ralph Nader wrote, and he got a bunch of liberal Democrats to pass the shit that Ralph Nader wrote, but the liberal Democrats are going to lose their election or get kicked out of the party. Why? Because they pushed for Nader's legislation. They got OSHA and the Freedom of Information Act and shit that Nader had wrote. Nader wrote the thing, but he's saying that look at all these liberal Dems that essentially lost power. George McGovern, he said, had lost power. Now, I like Chris Hedges. I think it's we got to consider if, the empire collapses, what are we to do? Is it going to be that bad? I very much support the Republic, and I like the Republic. I don't like that we're an empire. Why would we colonize anything? Why would we not adopt any of the colonies as citizens? And United Nations, that's the whole point of the World War II, the greatest generation. The gift that they gave us was the United Nations. So one sovereign nation wouldn't Adolf Hitler another sovereign nation. You're a sovereign nation, then you deserve to have, sovereignty. One country invades your country, that's not your country first. So then the entire world gets together and stops that. I'm okay with all these things. So Chris Hedges, if the empire collapses, we should all go buy Chris Hedges' books. When it comes to the Republicans and the Democrats, he's 100% correct. A-OK, not just A-OK, he's perfection. He says that Bill Clinton turned the Democrat Party into the Republican Party and the Republicans into batshit lunatics. He's 100% correct. The Democrats are the conservatives. Look at Joe Biden, conservative. Look at Barack Obama. He says he ran the country as a Republican. Bill Clinton, he's a conservative. These are conservative Democrats. So Bill Clinton turned the Democrats into Republicans, and then where do the Republicans go? They feel like they got to go farther right than, where they're at, so that turns them into batshit fucking lunatics. So, Chris Hedges is on point about a lot of motherfucking things, but he just mentioned that politics is a game of fear. If politics is a game of fear, then why no one forced to vote? If politics is a game of fear, why would you be against forced to vote? Forced to vote, it seems like, is more consistent with, Chris Hedges' entire fucking philosophy of standing tall and standing bold and strong and doing something about, we're in a B-52 bomber and it's going down. Now, maybe the empire, maybe the military bases, maybe the empire could go down without the Republic going down. Is that what he's saying? Because if we're a B-52 bomber and we're going down, he doesn't seem it doesn't seem like there's any urgency whatsoever. But Chris Hedges, you think the whole thing's going to crash and we're all going to die? Where's the damn urgency? Where's the urgency? You think we're all going to die, but hey, let's make sure Nancy Pelosi is going to be the Speaker of the House forever and ever. That's a stupid proposition. She's not going to be Speaker of the House forever and ever.
So they qualify for food stamps and all the money, profits are just vacuumed out of the community. This is just repeated across the United States. I mean, Walmart is a really dark enterprise that has to be destroyed, and we have to do it. That's where our energy has to go. And once we put our energy into confronting the real epicenters of power, and then we begin to make that power afraid, then we can talk about political effectiveness.
Well, half the left, here's what I keep coming back to, though. Half the left thinks that you shouldn't talk about third parties. Half the left literally calls the other half the dumb left for articulating any value or interest in third-party candidacies. Half the left thinks that the other half of the left is monstrous, a villain to attack women of color for critiquing the efficacy of squad members. Right? This is literally half of the left, and I'm not trying to describe them using, I'm not trying to undermine them, use divisive language here, but one might call them the institutional left, is doing the work, I would argue, of backing people away from exactly those strategies that would create fear that is useful for us, and they're doing it under the cover of saying, well, we have all of these team players on the inside, we have to protect them now. Right? They're prioritizing the political careers of individuals as though that's a stand-in for our political good interests.
Yeah, so this was a super interesting clip, and I thought it was a great conversation. Obviously, shout out to Brianna at Bad Faith when it comes to political organizing and activism. So, that's obvious, and that has to be said. But what I don't really understand as much about his answer here is that he says that force the vote would be politically suicidal, but then he goes on to list people like Ralph Nader and people like Dennis Kucinich, who also did things that were undeniably politically suicidal, as he referenced.
George
but he
McGovern.
respects those people for what they did and thinks that was the right.
Good point. Excellent point. Gavin, CMB, at Gavin CMB, not Zach. There's where he was talking about Ralph Nader and George McGovern. I want to get that clip because I think it's
cherry-picked among all the other points of inflection, including...
Because I think it's important. He's basically saying that you can buck and kick the system, but you can't buck and kick it too much because it'll buck and kick you back, and then you'll lose your power, and what good is that? So I think that's what he's saying is that, you got to play the game, and you don't want to, you want to push and prod, but you don't want to knock them over, and they'll resent you the whole time, and you can't, you'll be a Marjorie Taylor Greene and get kicked off all your...
Obviously, force a vote, which wasn't contingent on Biden in that way, which was a real, or forcing the vote over a $15 minimum wage, or whatever other ask that you want, even if it's not the Medicare for All floor vote, which...
Sam Cedar and Gene Kugar were both in favor of forced vote in the very beginning, and Chris Hedges' face, he is just so fucking gloom and doom. He's so fucking... He's got that frown painted on his fucking face. It's like, man, Chris, like, shit. You all right, buddy?
To me, is really incidental.
Everything all right?
It's all about the real issue here. Not incidental, but the real core of this is whether or not you're willing to really gum up the works and pose a real threat in order to get some agenda item crossed. And my concern is that while I don't want there to be these kind of superficial levels of infighting, but there are some actors who have the effect of channeling the interest in Bernie into a kind of acquiescence to a Biden administration, and we're just going to do neoliberalism for the next 8 years, and you're a silly goat for thinking that you should be agitating for anything more than incrementalism at this time.
You silly goose. I've never seen a silly goat or a silly goose
coming out with a kind of revised mission statement saying we're just going to do Bidenism for the foreseeable future.
Well, look, I mean, that forced vote didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because Nancy Pelosi has a lot of power, and the few people who might have gotten behind forced the vote don't have any power.
The squad don't have power. Bullshit, Chris Hedges. Bullshit.
You said that last time, Professor Hedges, when we were on the show, and I pushed back against you a little bit. Because when you say they don't have any power, what do you mean? It feels like what you really mean is, what you're really saying is they are choosing not to fall on the sword. They are choosing their careers. They actually do very, very directly have the power to prevent Nancy Pelosi from being Speaker of the House. Right. But they are choosing not to exercise that power because they put their own career and their ability to stay in Congress above using that power. Right.
They don't have the ability to put pressure on Nancy Pelosi. And you're right. That's a good point. They could choose political suicide.
Here's the other thing. Look, can we talk that through a little bit, Professor? Just because, what does that look like? It's political suicide for them to not vote for Nancy Pelosi. What happens next? Because we talked this through a little bit on a recent episode I had with Ari Robinhoft, who was Bernie's deputy campaign manager, and I asked him the same series of questions, and he basically made the same point. And I pushed back and said, okay, well, what if AOC said that she would rather be a one-term congressperson than compromise her values. So let her be a one-term that's what she said. I didn't put that on her. You know what I mean? So why not say, I am going to be willing to incur the wrath of the beast, not at all minimizing what that wrath is, for the sake of exposing how opposed elected Democrats are to the interests of their constituents.
Because 99.9% of people who go into politics don't have that moral backbone. Dennis Kucinich does. Dennis Kucinich, Chapter 1 term, was driven out of his office as mayor of Cleveland by the big banks. They threw the city in default because he wouldn't privatize the public utility. And then, of course, the Democratic Party, which was sick of Kucinich, did redistricting in a way that pushed him out of the House. He's now running again for the mayor's office in Cleveland. But it's very rare. George McGovern did. George McGovern took on the Democratic Party establishment, and then, interestingly enough, after the 1972 elections, took on the meat and dairy industry for the animal ag industry and its health effects, and he was finished. And so that's one of the things that Ralph Nader charts really well. It's the way the Democratic Party became utterly subservient to corporate interests and destroyed its liberal wing. Well, Nader wrote 24 pieces of legislation: the Mine and Safety Act, the Clean Water Act, OSHA. All this was written by Ralph, but it was pushed through Congress by liberal Democrats. And one by one, Ralph watched those liberal Democrats be destroyed. And so that's the problem. And they have all the power. They put all the pressure, which is why we have just moved incrementally towards, I mean, the Democratic Party in Europe would be a far-right party. In essence, what Clinton did is transform the Democratic Party into the Republican Party and push the Republican Party so far to the right it became insane. That's what happened.